Okay, so let's recall that last time we were looking at vestigial sideband modulation. We'll continue with that discussion today for some time and try to wind that up, and in the rest of the time I'll introduce the concept of what is called a super heterodyne receiver for amplitude modulation systems, which will answer a number of questions that have been raised from time to time about tunability, etc. of the receiver, right? So we'll look at these two issues today. To recollect our discussion on vestigial sideband modulation, we said that it is useful to have a sideband filtering mechanism in which we don't try to cut off one of the sidebands completely, but permit a portion of the other sideband to be also transmitted. Basically it simplifies our filtering problem, right? We are able to work with filters which are more practical, which have the requirement of having a gradual roll off rather than a sudden cutoff, right? Whether you want a high pass filter or a low pass filter, depending on whether you want to transmit the upper sideband or the lower sideband, we need to do this, right? However, if you want this feature, we need to make sure that this filter would produce a signal which would lead to perfect demodulation of your transmitted signal, perfect recovery of the message signal, right? So when we impose this constraint, we found that this gradual roll-off filter which leads to vestigial sideband modulation must satisfy a certain constraint, right? And the constraint we derived was this equation, that the filter HF, which is the sideband filtering filter, vestigial sideband filtering filter, must satisfy the condition that HF minus FC plus HF plus FC must be equal to 1, right? This constant 1 of course is arbitrary, it could be any other constant. Main thing is it is a constant value. Now to understand what this means, let's look at the picture. Let's say we are talking about the high pass filter to take the upper sideband, right? This would have been your ideal sideband, upper sideband filter. The VSB filter on the other hand, so this we are plotting H of f, assuming it to be real, or you consider this to be mod of H of f. For the VSB filter, we had permitted that this at the cutoff, around the cutoff frequency, have a gradual roll off, right? So the transfer function looks something like that, right? And basically what we are saying is that this transfer function should have a shape which satisfies this condition. When it satisfies this condition, a coherent detector would be able to perfectly recover the message signal empty back, right? Right? This is what we discussed. Let's see what this means. This constraint means on the filter transfer function. Can you guess what it would mean? It is a kind of symmetry that is implied here, right? If you, for example, look at this condition carefully, this is basically saying that if I fold this portion of the roll off back into this region, right, then of this fold, if I take a mirror image of this around this point, right, then if I add up these two curves, they should turn out to be a flat curve, a constant curve, right? So there is a kind of symmetry involved around FC, and this kind of symmetry that you want the filter to have is called vestigial symmetry. So the filter required to have what is called vestigial symmetry. So the filter characteristics must have this vestigial symmetry. This is the conclusion of the discussion that we had that day, right? In summary. So basically what this implies is that when you fold this curve back into this region, the sum of these two curves, this solid curve and this dotted curve, turns out to be constant value. Okay? Think about that. This is fairly obvious. Now, if you were to go back to our issue of representation, right? This so far we have talked about how to design the vestigial sideband filtering filter at the transmitter so that message is perfectly recoverable. Now let's look at the issue of representation of the VSP signal. Right? Yes, please. Not the advantage, it is a requirement. It is not that we are seeking any advantage. Unless we have that vestigial symmetry, we will not be able to recover the message signal back. Right? This is our entire discussion was based on how to design the filter HFF so that empty is recoverable by the coherent detector. We wanted the output V naught T of the coherent detector to equal empty, K times empty, right? So if you want that to happen, this condition must be satisfied. You can't simply choose any arbitrary filter with gradual roll off to do the VSP filtering. That's the implication, right? You have to have a filter which has this symmetry around FC. The roll off portion must exhibit that symmetry if the perfect recovery is to be made possible. So the VSP filter has to satisfy this constraint. It is not an advantage that we are talking about, it is a requirement. Okay, so please understand that. Okay, now like the other modulated signals that we have discussed so far, the VSP signal also is a band pass signal, and we know that every band pass signal has a quadrature representation, right? So let's say it has an in phase component S sub IT into cosine 2 pi f ct and a quadrature phase component S sub qt sine 2 pi f ct. Right? This is an in phase component and this is a quadrature phase component which every band pass signal must have. For the DSP-SC signal, S sub IT is empty, right? And S sub qt is 0. For the SSB signal, single sideband signal, this is empty and this is the Hilbert transform of empty, right? So the question is, what are the in phase and quadrature phase components for the case of VSP signal? That's what we need to understand. Okay. To proceed further, let's look at the frequency domain relationship between SIF and SF. Right? What is how can we express a spectrum of SIT in terms of the spectrum of ST? Okay. To do that, ask yourself the question, how will you recover SIT from ST? We already know that. Remember we discussed quadrature multiplexing and demultiplexing, right? If I want the in phase component from this message signal S of t, what should I do? I have to do coherent detection with respect to cosine 2 pi f ct. I must have a coherent detector with the local carrier of cosine 2 pi f ct as the carrier signal, multiply these two and pass the product through a low pass filter. So if I multiply ST with cosine 2 pi f ct, what is the spectrum of that signal? That will be SF minus FC plus SF plus FC, right? And that spectrum, this spectrum would have excuse me, a component around the baseband and a component around 2FC. Out of that, when you do the low pass filtering, what do? You retain only the component around the baseband. So basically what you are saying is that the signal SIT that you will recover would have a spectrum which equals this for F less than the bandwidth, right? Mod of f less than the bandwidth, but equals 0 for mod of f greater than the bandwidth, because you are low pass filtering it, right? This has two regions where it is non-zero. It is non-zero in this region, and it is non-zero in the region around 2fc. That portion is being cut off by the low pass filter, and therefore the spectrum of SIT that you have in this representation must be given by this expression. Are you all with me? Because you can see that SIT can be obtained from ST by multiplying ST with cosine 2 pi fct and passing the result through a low pass filter, and that fact leads us to this expression for the spectrum of SIT in terms of the spectrum of ST. Any questions on that? Now you may recollect that we had written an expression for S of f as half AC times MF into HF minus FC, sorry, it was not this. Your S of f was, S of f is your VSB signal. How was it being generated? You are generating it by first multiplying MT with cos omega CT and then passing through the VSB filter, right? So that spectrum would be MF minus FC plus MF plus FC, right? This is the DSPSC signal in the frequency domain, and you are passing it through H of f. So this was S of f. Now use this result here to get an expression for SIF, and we'll do a similar exercise later for SQF, right? But let's first complete the exercise for SIF. Are you with me? We are saying that this is the expression for the spectrum of ST, which is a VSB signal, vestigial sideband signal, right? If I use that expression here, I'll get the spectrum of the in-phase component of the VSB signal, right? So this would then become SIF. Would you be able to tell me what it will be? You'll have, if you remember, we had also discussed what was the nature of SF minus FC plus SF plus FC, right? We had gone through this further step when you were looking at the demodulation of VSB signal, and that contained 4 terms, obviously, because two terms will come from here and 2 terms will come from, each of these 2 will have 2 terms, and therefore you get 4 terms, out of which only 2 terms were in the baseband, which is what you want. The other 2 terms were around 2fc, right? So if you substitute that here, you get 4 terms, 2 of which are in the baseband, and it is those 2 terms which you need to look at, and those 2 terms, if you recollect or if you have the notes in front of you, would be, or it's in fact obvious, we'll just look again that it is obvious. It will be half AC MF into H of f minus FC plus H of f plus FC. In fact, it is from this point that we derived a requirement that this should be equal to a constant, right? So this is what you will get for B, for the spectrum of SIF. Now, in view of the fact that this filter is anyway satisfying the constraint that this is equal to 1, this becomes half of AC times MF, right? Which itself, of course, is limited to mod of f less than B, because M of f is supposed to have bandwidth of B. So I don't have to qualify this any further. So what does it mean? What is SIT? S sub IT. What is S sub IT? half of AC into MT. So once again the in-phase component remains the same, whether it is a DSP SC signal, whether it is the SSP signal, and now whether it is a VSB signal, the in-phase component remains proportional to message signal MT, and that is the reason you are able to recover it through coherent demodulation, right? And that was of course made possible because we had satisfied this constraint that this plus this must be independent of f, must be a constant, right? So I think everything falls in place. Only thing left to consider is SQT. Now if you go through the same exercise once again, can you tell me what will be the spectrum SQF in terms of the spectrum of ST? So we are going back to this expression now. How will you, okay, again the answer to this question would be, how do we recover SQT from ST? And that will give us a relationship in the frequency domain also. How will you recover it? You multiply this with sine 2 pi FCT, right, and pass the result to a low pass filter, right? So what will be the spectrum of ST sine 2 pi FCT? That's what you have to really see. So it will be now, instead of SF plus FC, SF minus FC plus SF plus FC, it will be J times S of F minus FC minus S of F plus FC. Just remember what is sine 2 pi FCT. It is e to the power j 2 pi FCT minus e to the power minus j 2 pi FCT divided by 2j, right? Use that result, use the frequency translation theorem of the Fourier transform, and this is what you get, right? Straightforward, right? So this is, of course, this will be the result. Again, as you know, when you do this, when you pass ST, when you multiply ST with sine 2 pi FCT, you will get two terms, one around baseband and the other around 2FC. So we have to low pass filter the result, right? So we are only looking at the portion of the spectrum, this spectrum, for mod of F less than B once again, because outside this it has to be 0 because of low pass filtering, right? S sub QT is also a low pass signal. So this, if you follow the same analogy, again substitute for S of F, right, and go through that, you get J by 2 A sub C M of F. What will be the difference? Instead of this plus this, you will get this minus this, right? Everything else remaining the same. Okay, that's what you will get. Now how do you interpret this result? The interpretation of this result is that the low pass signal S sub QT, which forms the quadrature phase component of the VSB signal, right, can be obtained from the message signal MT by passing the message signal MT through a filter whose transfer function is this, right? You are multiplying the spectrum of MT with this transfer function. So that means this signal S sub QT is obtained by passing the message signal MT through a filter with this transfer function, right? So S sub QT can be therefore considered as obtained by passing the original message signal MT through a filter with transfer function, let us say H sub QF, where H sub QF is J times H of F minus FC minus H of F plus FC. let's call this signal MT convolved with or passed through HQF as M prime T, right. Let's say the result that which we are so far calling S sub QT, I am giving a new name to it, which is I am calling M prime T, right. Then basically what we are saying is that the VSB signal, I think I have slightly changed my notation this time. We had been using X of T so far, and suddenly I have shifted to S of T. I hope you don't mind that. I didn't realize while I made this change. So your VSB signal therefore can be thought of as half of AC times MT times cosine 2 pi FCT minus half of AC M prime T sine 2 pi FCT, where M prime T is obtained like this. Okay, so it has some similarities with what is done in the SSB case. What was in the SSB case? This was M hat T, the Hilbert transform. So we are passing MT through a special filter called the Hilbert transformer. Instead of passing it through a Hilbert transformer, we are passing it through something very similar, but it's not exactly a Hilbert transformer, right? It's something slightly different from that. To appreciate what is the difference, let's look at the transfer function HQF a little more carefully, right? But before I discuss that, this also gives you an alternative method for generating VSB signals, right? Just like the phasing method for SSB, you can have a phasing method for the VSB, right? What will be the block diagram? You will have the message signal MT coming in. The in phase part will be obtained by simply multiplying with cosine 2 pi FCT, and the quadrature phase part, before we multiply with sine 2 pi FCT, you will pass it through this filter HQF, right, and then multiply this with sine 2 pi FCT, the quadrature carrier, and simply add the two or subtract the two depending on which sideband you want to transmit, fully and which one partially, right. So that's your, and the detection or the demodulation can be done coherently. Okay. Let's just spend a few minutes now on discussing the nature of HQF. What does it look like? Let's first recollect, or let's, as we notice, this discussion that I have had is valid for SSB as well, right? Because SSB does satisfy this requirement. The SSB filter, this filter, this condition is satisfied, that this plus this is equal to 1, because this portion is 0 and this portion is 1, something like that, right? And therefore that condition is satisfied. So this whole thing as to what HF minus, this whole thing should be applicable also to SSB signals. So therefore let's first look at the nature of HQF for SSB signals, right? For SSB signal, what is your transfer function? It is like this. Basically what we hope to see, what do we hope to see? That if we derive HQF from H of F from this condition that we have just discussed, we must get the Hilbert transformer, because we know that that is how the quadrature component of SSB is generated, through Hilbert transformation of MT, right? So HQF should turn out to be the Hilbert transformer. Let's see whether it does, right? This is your H of F, centered around, I mean, this is the high pass filter with a cutoff frequency of F sub C. Now let's look at this filter J times, let me plot J times HQF, or 1 by J times HQF, or HQF divided by J, because if you recollect, if you look at this expression, HQF is this. So I'm taking J on the left hand side and plotting HQF upon J, right? That is equal to HF minus FC minus HF plus FC. Okay. So HF minus FC takes you, shifts this to the right to this point. So you get this, right? Of course, this portion will go around 2FC. We are not interested in that, right? We are only interested in the portion in the low pass region, right? HF plus FC will shift this portion to the left, right? And you are taking a difference of these two. So here you will get plus 1 and here you will get minus 1, right? So you get your signum function back, right? So HQF upon J is equal to signum minus signum. So basically what you get is HQF upon J is equal to minus signum of F, right? And that's precisely what the Hilbert transformer is. H sub QF is equal to minus J times signum F, which is the Hilbert transformer. So as expected, this theory leads us to a filter HQF, which is nothing but the Hilbert transformer for the case of SSP, right? For the VSP, the filter would be slightly different. That's about all. Let's look at what the filter will be in this case. This is the VSP filter. FC, this goes, let's say, to FC minus beta. This is minus FC, and this comes to F minus FC plus beta, right? This is the VSP filter, right? Now let's apply this result there and plot once again 1 by J times H sub QF. When you shift this to the right, what you will get is something like that, right? When you shift this to the left, you will get something like that. When you subtract the two, right, this is coming from HF minus FC, this is coming from HF plus FC, by looking only the translation towards the baseband. Of course, each of these components also gets translated to 2FC, which we are not looking at. So now if you subtract the two, the filter that you will see is going to have this kind of characteristic. So this is 1 by J HQF, right? I have not plotted this very nicely, but it will be symmetrical as it should be, right? It will have this kind of characteristic. We are subtracting from this, so at this point what will you get? Half minus half, which is 0, it is passing through the origin, right? And then of course at this point you get a gradual decrease towards 0, and at this point you become more and more negative, right, till you become minus 1. So this is plus 1 here, minus 1 here, and between minus beta to plus beta there is a gradual roll off. So HQF is J times this, right? So it's not exactly a signum function anymore, right? That's the only difference, but it's very similar to that in the limit as beta tends to 0, this will reduce to the signum function. Okay. Are you with me? So then let's try to wind up the discussion on vestigial sideband modulation. In vestigial sideband modulation, therefore, what we have learnt is A, we will use slightly more bandwidth than the bandwidth of an SSB signal, right? The amount that you would like to use more will depend on the kind of flexibility you want in your filter design, right? The value of beta that you use is a design parameter. You could choose it to be a small value, you could choose it to be a large value, depends on how easy it is to realize the filter that you want, right? Or how much cost you are ready to incur for designing for making the filter, right? Because whether you want a less complex filter or a more complex filter, right? If you want a gradual roll off, you can make it a less complex filter. Only thing is the cost will be in terms of a larger value of beta, that means a slightly poorer bandwidth efficiency, right? But if you pay this cost, the advantages will be that you can save considerable amount of bandwidth still for large bandwidth signals like picture signals which have rich low frequency content. And VSB, as we learned, as we discussed last time, is particularly relevant to those signals which have a very large amount of low frequency content, and therefore you cannot tolerate any distortion in the low frequency region, particularly phase distortion, which is likely to happen when you design a sharp cutoff filter, and then the phase characteristics at the point of cutoff will typically be highly nonlinear, which would be very, very undesirable, particularly for signals like picture signals and fact signals. Okay, so in a nutshell, that summarizes our discussion on VSB. So therefore, now you can imagine for TV transmission, this would be a natural choice when you're transmitting pictures, right? We'll discuss TV transmission later, but you can keep this in mind, right? That vestigial sideband signals would be particularly the right kind of modulation to use for TV transmission, TV picture transmission. In fact, that is the case. So picture transmission in television actually uses vestigial sideband modulation, right? Because you have a very large bandwidth signal there. If you don't cut off one of the sidebands, you will occupy too much bandwidth. 5 megahertz will imply 10 megahertz bandwidth around the carrier, right? Which is a very, very large amount of bandwidth. So to save that bandwidth and still not have these problems that I discussed, you decide to go for VSB, because you can't go for SSB in this case. Okay, we'll return to this point when we discuss TV transmission. Any questions? Any questions? None? Everything is clear? Good. Let's hope it is really clear.
So we have that HQF as the Hilbert transform. So when I take this SVSB-T, sir, I'll be having a term M prime T, which now becomes the Hilbert transform of
No, no. M prime T is not the Hilbert transform of MT. No, neither M prime F. Please, I think you have not understood what I have said then. No, no, only for the case of SSB. I will just prove to you that for the case of SSB, this theory that I have developed is consistent with what we discussed earlier. That's all I said. Okay, whatever theory we have developed for the general sideband filtering is consistent with what we have learned for the case of SSB signal, because this filter HQF then reduces to the Hilbert transformer. But in general, it is this kind of a filter, right, which is not a Hilbert transformer. Sorry? Yes, the roll off that you will have will depend on the value of beta, right? If the value of beta becomes 0, you get the single sideband case back, and it reduces to the Hilbert transformer.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Sir, in VSB we can't have quality multiplexing.
Neither in SSB nor in VSB.
Sir, and still, we still need a coherent detector.
Yes.
Why don't we go for DSB with quality multiplexing for video signals?
We'll discuss that later. It's a good question, but the answer is that actually we can't tolerate any phase incoherence in quadrature multiplexing, not even one bit. There will be a crosstalk if there is even a small amount of either frequency difference or phase difference, which you won't like to have. Whereas in the case of SSB and VSB, if you remember, I have a second method of demodulation in which I add a carrier locally and then do envelope detection, which is much less sensitive to these problems than the coherent detector is, and I will be able to do the same thing for VSB. One method of demodulating the VSB signals would be precisely the second method that we discussed for the SSB signal, that is the carrier reinsertion method. We look at that. In fact, the theory is exactly the same. There is no difference, except that m hat t gets replaced with m prime t, right? So we have a second method, and that is it is the existence of the second method which makes VSB and SSB more acceptable than QM. I hope I have answered your question. Any other questions? Okay, let's proceed further then. Now I'm going to slightly change the topic here. We are on the subject of broad subject of amplitude modulation and its applications, but now we are coming to some practical aspects. And before that, one of the practical aspects that we need to discuss is the kind of receivers that we need to use. Of course, we have discussed the structure of the demodulator, right? For example, if you are doing AM transmission, we know what we are going to use. We are going to use an envelope detector, right? And we can use the envelope detector also for the case of SSB and VSB with carrier reinsertion. But at the moment, let's concentrate on the amplitude modulation aspect, because that's one of the most commonly used analog modulations. Amplitude modulation with carrier, because of the simplicity of the detector. But as many of you asked me at the time of this discussion, what will happen if I want to receive different signals, right? Because when you're having a broadcast receiver, you don't want to listen to only a signal at one carrier frequency. There's so many different broadcasting stations, each operating at a different frequency, right? And you want to be able to tune into any one of them, right? What are the issues concerned with that kind of a receiver? So we're now looking at, rather than just the detector, we want to look at the receiver as a whole, right? As to what all features the receiver should have, so that it is possible for me to have detection of a signal of my choice from amongst multiple signals that may be available from the broadcasting areas around you, right? So to do the discussion, I first want to digress into slight generalization of our previous discussion on frequency translation and mixing. These are not new terms, we have already discussed this. There is one issue which I want to discuss before I come back to the receiver. Now the term frequency translation, so far we have been using it in the context of going from baseband to a bandpass signal, or from a bandpass signal to a low pass signal, right? But actually in communication application, the term frequency translation and mixing are used in a much wider context. Typically we sometimes, in fact it's quite often that we need to go from one frequency to another frequency, right? Not necessarily from baseband to some FC and back, right? Arbitrarily we may want to go from bandpass signal centered at one frequency to a bandpass signal centered at another frequency, right? So let me start with that. It's desirable in many applications to translate, and by translate I mean frequency translate, a bandpass signal to a new center frequency. And the mechanism is the same. Mechanism is multiplying the bandpass signal that you want to translate by a suitable carrier signal, a suitable carrier signal which could be sinusoid or cosinusoid, or a corresponding periodic signal, and appropriate filtering, multiplying and appropriate filtering. Right? And this process of multiplying and appropriate filtering is what we call mixing. And if you remember, I had introduced some other names also for this: converting, right, and heterodyning. Mixing, converting, heterodyning. These are names which are used interchangeably. So what we are saying is, you have a bandpass signal, let's say mt cosine omega 1t. For the sake of simplicity, I am taking only the in-phase component, but you could take a general bandpass signal with a general representation, right, without any loss of discussion, without any loss of generality. So I have taken a bandpass signal which is centered around mt cosine omega 1t. Where is it centered? Omega 1, right? The center frequency is omega 1. Let's say I want to translate this to a center frequency of omega 2. What should I do? I should have a local oscillator. What should be the frequency of this local oscillator? Omega 1? Either omega 1 minus omega 2 or omega 1 plus omega 2. Any one of the two will be fine, right? Right? So I take a local oscillator with a frequency of either omega 1 plus omega 2 or omega 1 minus omega 2, and then when I multiply these two, I'll get a sum frequency component and a difference frequency component, right? The sum frequency component will be at frequency 2 omega 1, will be centered around 2 omega 1 plus minus omega 2, right, which let's assume is quite large and can be removed by appropriate filter. But the component that we want is centered around omega 2. So what kind of filter we need here? Not a low pass filter, a band pass filter with center frequency of omega 2, right? And that will lead to your mt cosine omega 2t. As an exercise, please check up that if instead of mt cosine omega 1t I had taken the more general representation of the bandpass signal, right, that is mt cosine omega 1t, let's say some in-phase component and some quadrature phase component, and do this process, we will still get the translation intact, right? I'll leave that as an exercise. So this signal at this point, basically the theory is that if you look at this signal et, this you can write as mt cosine omega 2t plus mt cosine 2 omega 1 plus minus omega 2t through the trigonometric identities, right? And through the bandpass filtering you are eliminating this component. Retaining only this to get this output. So this process in general is called mixing. Now there is a very common problem that happens in this process, that one encounters in this process, right? It's a common problem in all mixers of this kind. It's associated with all mixers of this kind. Suppose you take omega 1 plus omega 2 here, right? And let's say at the input, along with this signal, I also have a signal at frequency omega 1 plus 2 omega 2t. Okay, so along with this I have another signal which is centered around omega 1 plus 2 omega 2t. Now what will be the output of this system? Have you understood the question? The question is, if at the input to the same system which is adjusted to receive a signal of frequency omega 1, that is adjusted to translate the signal of frequency omega 1 to omega 2, if at the input to the system I have a signal omega 1 plus 2 omega 2, what will be the output? Think carefully. see basically what you have to look at the some frequency argument. What will be the frequency components that you will have here? Omega 1 plus 2 omega 2 minus omega 1 plus omega 2, and of course the sum component. The sum component we don't have to worry about. And what is this equal to? Omega 2 again. So this will also be passed by this band pass filter, right? So for every frequency that it is supposed to translate, there is also what is called an image frequency, which it will translate to the same frequency. Not only it will translate omega 1 to omega 2, it will also translate omega 1 plus 2 omega 2 to omega 2, right? So omega 1 plus 2 omega 2, that frequency is said to be the image frequency of omega 1. Okay? So basically, let me, if you have not understood, let me repeat it. What we are saying is there is a common problem with mixers. And I want to elaborate on this problem. And this problem is the following: that inputs of the form kt cosine omega 1 plus minus 2 omega 2, here I had taken the mixer frequency, the local oscillator frequency to be omega 1 plus omega 2. If I had taken omega 1 minus omega 2, then the image frequency would have been omega 1 minus 2 omega 2, right? Basically the sign would be the same. So inputs of the form kt cos omega 1 plus minus 2 omega 2 t are also translated to, can you complete the sentence? To a center frequency of omega 2. To see this, let's go through the trigonometry. What we are saying is 2 kt cosine omega 1 plus minus 2 omega 2 t. When you multiply this with, so kt cosine omega 1 plus minus 2 omega 2 t, when you multiply that with 2 cosine, what are you multiplying with? What's your local oscillator frequency? Either omega 1 plus omega 2 or omega 1 minus omega 2, right? This leads to two components, one which is a difference frequency component and the other which is the sum frequency component. Right? And this will again show up at the output of the same band pass filter. This will get eliminated, right? This is the point I was making. So when you use a local oscillator of this frequency, basically what you are saying is omega 1 will go to omega 2, omega 1 plus minus omega 2 will also go to omega 2, right? So this, sorry, this will be 2 omega 2, right? Omega 1 plus, and of course the sign will be same. More precisely, if LO is omega 1 plus omega 2, the image frequency will be omega 1 plus 2 omega 2. If your LO is omega 1 minus omega 2, your image frequency would be, actually this is a misnomer, I shouldn't use IF, IF is typically used to denote something else, but let me for the moment use that. This will be omega 1, sorry, minus 2 omega 2. Right? And therefore, if both the signals were simultaneously present, the signal at omega 1 and the signal at omega 1 plus 2 omega 2, and we have used a local oscillator of this frequency, the band pass filter output will contain components corresponding to both of them, right? And there will be a crosstalk. You will get sum of two signals. Is that clear? Right? So that's a problem that you need to keep in mind when you are working with mixers, that there is a concept of an image frequency which has a potential to interfere with the frequency of interest, right? The image frequency, if a signal at that frequency is present, will interfere with the signal of interest which is at frequency omega 1. Is that clear? Basically that's the point that I want to convey. Now keep that in mind, and now we shall discuss okay, so we'll discuss next time the concept of a super heterodyne receiver. Thank you very much.